Welcome to part one, chapter one, Living with Art. So this is our introductory chapter, excuse me, and it's going to cover the impulse for art, what do artists do, and creating and creativity. All right. One of the images that we start with in image 1.1, and again, I'm going to note that this is what your fig number is, your figure number. These are figures, which doesn't quite make sense in today's parlance, but that's what it is. In the old days, it would say FIG dot 1.1. Now it just says 1.1. Okay, so when I'm asking you to give me a fig number, that's what I'm asking for. That's also explained on the first module for getting instructions for this course. Okay, so we're looking at Brancusi's studio, which the author really likes, and talking about his pure and simple forms that he's interested in. You can see that this is abstract work or abstracted work. This piece right here is very famous. It's called Bird and Bird in Space. And this piece is a very streamlined and abstracted bird shape. We're going to talk a little bit more about abstraction and representational work as we move on. But Brancusi is the height of abstraction in the 20s and 30s and into the 40s, I believe. Okay, our key terms are aesthetics, megalith, Neolithic, selective perception, and vanitas. I'm going to actually say that aesthetics really happens in chapter 2, so I'm going to leave that over. That's more on page 25. I think our author made a bit of a mistake with this revision. Okay, so I'm going to skip this over. This is important to know. Okay, so don't skip that over, but look at page 25. Okay, so the impulse for art, what we know of human history from what we have dug up or discovered, and remember that the past is very patchy. We don't know the whole glorious past, especially if anything was ever done on paper or fabric and that kind of thing, textiles, because those things do not stand the test of time. If they were buried in a tomb, perhaps we found some of them. Some of the Incan work that we found in the dry desert beach tombs and sand. And the Egyptians, for example, we found some really old pieces with those cultures. But what we have found is not complete, and it's just the sort of things that have survived. So we make discoveries all the time, which is exciting, but it is not complete. Okay? So what do artists do? There's different segments in this book. Create places for some human purpose. To create extraordinary versions of ordinary objects, record and commemorate, give tangible form to the unknown, give tangible form to feelings and ideas, and refresh our vision to see the world in a new way. So the first artist task, and I put this into the PowerPoint in this way, is to create places for some human purpose. This is very old, 25,000 to 17,000 BCE. We used to say BC, now we say before the Common Era. Common Era is still the year zero. The timing didn't change, but we've changed the way we talk about it. So this is in our book, and this is the lion panel, and these are just some really rich, beautiful images of Paleolithic drawings, cave drawings, or cave paintings that were found in France. Now, France just so happened to have had the right conditions to preserve these particular drawings. There might be a lot more of these, and we know that there are petroglyphs, for example, in the Southwest that are somewhat similar, not quite as old as far as we know, but drawing on rock, very permanent type of artwork. So close up, you can see there's a lot of detail, right? There's some really interesting things that we see that a lion that we know today has, that sort of like whisker area that's kind of speckled, even some shadowing and some shading, which is pretty sophisticated when you think about maybe the way the artwork had developed at that time. So these are not all that abstracted. We don't really know what this repetition means. Some people think it's to bring about a good hunt, multiples in a hunt. We really don't know for sure, but the book will talk about this a little bit. A lot of anatomically correct drawings, very beautiful, and somewhat permanent. Okay. The other aspect we talk about are two main um, roots of art are Paleolithic, meaning drawing or painting, two-dimensional work. And then we get into three-dimensional work, which is the Neolithic. Okay, a little bit later, and we have found things like Stonehenge in England, and these are 13 feet high. Not the most enormous structure ever, but very early. And these are stone structures in the Neolithic era. Now, if you notice the date on this, which is a 2,000-year-old, or sorry, in the book now it's saying it's 3,000 BC. The Egyptian pyramids are built at the same time, but the culture in England is not caught up to what's happening in Egypt and in the cradle, what we call the cradle of civilization. This is still a Neolithic culture, a very basic culture, but anyway, they managed to build these monuments, which is pretty impressive. Okay. As far as we know, Stonehenge is a type of a calendar or a observatory to a degree. We don't know every detail, but it does line up to certain, like the solstice, certain times of the year, certain dates, and there is some ritual practices, we believe. A lot is not known. Okay, so who said this quote? It's important for you guys to know this. It will be on the quiz. I don't know if it's on the midterm too. I can't recall off the top of my head. But art is basically Paleolithic or Neolithic, either urged to smear soot and grease, meaning painting, or pile stone on stone, meaning sculpture. Who said that? Okay, think for a second. And here it comes. It's Anthony Carroll. Okay, so he's a British sculptor. He died recently. But it's kind of interesting that either paintings or sculpture are the two basic forms of art that we know of. There's a lot of other things. Things break down